you have to confirm that actually what is there in English can be translated in this way, I don't know, maybe in Chinese or maybe in Wolof or any other language. You can never say that this is, that is all the same. You know, you always have to confirm it one by one, because, well, you have one term which for one language can have 3 or 4 translations. Let's say a Neapolitan girl can have 9 different translations depending of age, of character, of whatever. You don't have this in English, really. You don't have this in German. But translating back from Neapolitan, you just translate go, all 9 of them, and it's okay. The other way around, not. You need to have the definition to go there. So this is the real problem of a dictionary in the end. It's for me doing translations to and from Neapolitan sometimes is terrible, because it's not my mother tongue. I live in that region. I do it, but I stand in front of this and no. Well, now in this case, how should I get over the concept? And then, if you take local languages, they're much more fine-grained. The less a language is written, the more fine meanings you have. And very often you end up in having a term you have to get explained. You cannot translate it. You just have to go there and explain what it is. And then you can go ahead translating the explanation to get this into the other languages so that people can understand what is meant. And no dictionary actually can do that up to now. I very often met this when I know when you do technical translations, it's really nice because a screw, you know, you can rotate the screw to the right or to the left-hand side, and that's it. But when you go into literature, when you go also, well, imagine to translate a joke. It's almost impossible. They're all double senses for one language, but you cannot transfer this to others. So this is where all this ties very much in, because I had this problem for years and years and years dealing with the small languages. And I now have it working again for about 1.5 years, Franconian, which is my mother tongue. And I realized that when I speak German, I speak really a different language, because what I transmit is different as when I use this more fine-grained way of expression my grandparents had. So what we're losing is really loads of information that is not going to go ahead. And now we just talked about this very, very basic things, but think about medicine. There are all these cultures that are not well known. They all have their remedies for illnesses. There are so many we don't even know about. I mean, keeping these languages alive, these cultures alive, also will allow in future to make research in such areas. And this can help a lot against illnesses maybe we have today, maybe we imported by traveling and don't even know that we imported them. But these other peoples already have a remedy for it, but we just don't know it. Probably it's already there. So it's not only about translation, it's not only about technology, it's really about mankind and life of mankind in the end, what we're doing. Okay, if there are no questions, you can ask anything. I mean, it must not be related to what we said. Just ask. Yeah.
Yes. I just want to ask you something. I love the idea of applying anarchism to this kind of repository or dictionaries, whatever they are not. They shouldn't be called dictionaries probably. But are we not in contradiction if we want to save languages that are spoken by a minority at the moment? You've just said that if a language is written, it has less if you want the expansion of the meaning of words
Yeah.
gets reduced.
Yes.
But
You want to honors.
then the problem comes, we need to have a written or recordings or written version of languages
Yes.
with the aim of making them survive. But at the same time, we are fighting, trying to think that people in a local community are going to stay in that local community, while the opposite has been the case. People are trying to get out of there and into the mainstream culture. So how do we
Well,
succeed in a project like this?
if I had an answer, I would say the world. Obviously, I don't. So I can give you an opinion, but not really an answer.
No.
My opinion is that it's all in our heads. I was grown up in a family in which everybody was speaking Piedmontese to each other, but to me. Because I was supposed to be in the generation that was socially accepted. As a result, I grew up as a person who had to translate in his head before being able to say things. Because all I heard was that language, I was thinking in that language. But since I wasn't allowed to use it, I wasn't able to pronounce it. So for 40 years, I had to translate my thought into a foreign language before being able to express myself. Until the day that I said, okay, I'm reading like 8 languages, I'm speaking 3, and the only one able to read, write, and pronounce is mine. Are you nuts? So I sat down, and I remember for like 4 months, having everybody looking at me as if I was idiot, because it's what I looked like, while I was speaking aloud to the wall, trying to make it sound as it was supposed to be, because it was here, but only the mouth didn't really know how to move. Until it finally got to the point in which I could express myself. But that was my own decision. The decision that was upstream was a decision made by a generation that was hating school because they were speaking that language. And obviously, all that they were trying to do was to protect me. They didn't want me to be hurt in school like they had been hurt in school themselves. It's not that they were trying to make a culture of genocide or whatever else. They were simply thinking that it's not really nice when they call you up here and they tell all the class to say, go to him and say, idiot! I mean, you don't want that to happen to you, to your child, do you? You don't. And obviously they try to avoid this. So if you're going to have a change on that thing, the thing that you have to do is to fight this social stigma by putting together the status symbols that are existing, not by defining anyone. Because you don't have the power to define a status symbol. I'm not Mr. Microsoft. If I was, I would do something, but that's why I'm not. Because I would do something. What I can use is what I have. And what I have is reality. What I see is that people is using mobile phones. Okay. What I can do is try to have a way by this repository to have a mobile phone that will speak Wolof tomorrow. So that the person who is speaking Wolof or Piedmontese or Albanian or whatever doesn't feel that he's got his language underlined in red and it's a shame that he's speaking that language, because if he only had a normal IQ, he would be speaking English, because that's the implicit of it. But if he simply can click on it and maybe find it funny, because that's another thing. I mean, in your own language, you always have an expression of another that is funny. In English, you don't, because if you're a foreigner, because you don't understand the humor, because you're not born into the English culture. You can translate the expression, but you cannot really get the joke that is inside of it. So if those of us who volunteer from the small culture, but it's up on us. Nobody's going to save us, but those. You do this, and you start to grab stuff and to work. If you don't do this, then it's up to you to end up here as in a museum. There are many ways to end up here. One way is to have a tool that you can use, and the other is to be exposed to the tourist, where you can do your Redskin dance every Sunday, so they can come and say, oh, that's the Piedmontese, look how they live. You can end up like this, if you want. But that's up to each and every culture, and because we can stand together and we can help each other, all of us, because we are 80% of